Welcome back to Brother Eel Global. And look, we got a little bit of a a stagnated signal in here. That'll improve the internet strength of the signal. However it go, man. So we looking at the tariff war, and we looking at everybody reactions. The reactions. We're kind of looking at the pattern of reactions and looking at the pattern of behavior of President Trump, um, and his approach towards balancement, justice, both economic justice, um, social justice, political justice, um, military justice, justice in all of its forms. So we're looking at the pattern, and we heard the reasoning, we heard the petition that President Trump campaigned on during the impeachment period. Prior to that, we looked at and have been examining the executive orders, the presidential actions that were taken prior to the impeachment period, the lawfare or the indictment periods of President Trump, his in his capacity as both a sitting president and um, a candidate, a presidential candidate, a sitting president, um, a defendant, a former president. We got Mar-a-Lago, the Mar-a-Lago raid, the lawfare that we witnessed, the economic attack. They attacked his economy, looking to devalue his estates, looking to devalue his businesses. Um, we've seen all this, the American public and the world, all of this activity was on display. So we're looking at his official response, his official stance in a presidential capacity. So being subject to the, you know, domestic attacks, the domestic abuse and injury, and on an international level, because he's aware and was made aware of the international attack on President Trump and his presidency, and the effort to undermine the impact, the positive impact and effects of his first presidency, and his fight to return to office in the 2020 election. And so that was an important episode, an event that unfolded that we all had a chance to witness. And we have obtained greater insight into exactly why you had all of these different actors, bad actors, participate in undermining um, Trump's presidency after his 45th, in their attempt to undermine his presidency, the impact and effect, not just domestically, but worldwide, right? The global impact and effect with the America First agenda, the America, the America First approach, right? The American approach, the America First policy. Well, let's save America, right? America's been suffering from this event that resonated from different trade agreements where we're receiving unfair treatment via these unfair trade agreements, these international uh, arrangements and systems of governance. And we're like, wait a minute, how did we get here? So we're looking at President Trump, and we're looking at the impact and effect. We're examining that. And so right now we're deadlocking a tariff war and a major presidential audit. And so I just looked at some information. It was talking about, man, money's going everywhere. Taxpayers' dollars is just going everywhere. So the common sense in it is the common sense and The universal injury that we suffer from is saying that, okay, let's tax Americans to fund everything and anything. And we got people and organizations that has developed pipelines to cipher taxpayer dollars into their pockets. And we've been supporting other people's wealth all over the world at our own demise. We've been financing our funeral. So we can align ourselves with the thinking of President Trump, because if you got the thinking of a common sense American, you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, why would I do that? Why would I vote for somebody that makes those kinds of decisions that puts us in a vulnerable position, that puts us in a decline capacity, that removes power and authority and leadership positioning, and like reorganize our position? It's like, what? Who did that? And why did they do that? And how? More importantly, how was that done? And so we had to put everything under a review. So as we're reviewing President Trump's, the impact and effect of his orders, his executive orders, and other actions, we say to ourselves, wow, what is it's like, well, Mexico versus United States. We got an issue with Canada. We got an issue with China. We got an issue with Colombia. We had an issue with the Panama, and we seen what the president of Panama come out and say. He said, well, look, man, we're going to end our relationships with China, basically with the Road and Belt Initiative. We've seen a report on that, and we're going to explore projects, programs with the United States. So we look at the impact and effect of the executive action taken towards Panama with respect to strengthening our national security, and strengthening our economy and the sustainability, our political sustainability in that region. So this strengthens the nation as a whole, as we see the Panama authorities come to the table and basically overall agree to the terms. We see what happened with Colombia, where they say, look, man, we ain't taking this, that, and the other. And, presidential actions was taken, and there was a compromise. There was um, a different tone, a different reality unfolded and manifested itself pursuant to the presidential action that was taken. And then we see there's a declaration of intent to take more executive action towards nations, uh, to first of all, review, reorganize, revamp arrangements, and restructure it to where the American people benefit instead of the opposite, because that's been the condition over some decades now. That's been the official policy of the United States with respect to its people. It's taking a position, a corporate position, a bureaucratic position, an operation, an administrative state, to where the people are in decline. Our communities, our neighborhoods, our systems are in decline due to the fact that it's been weaponized against the interests of the American people. And as a result of the weaponization of our government against the will of the people, it allowed, the Pandora's box to be open and unleash this um, this de facto version of the constitutional republic of the United States. It released this de facto version of it, and it has caused great harm on peoples of other nations and has enriched the corrupted ruling class. So that's what we're looking at. So we look at the actions, the border, southern border issues, etc. We put the military there to clear these executive or presidential actions, both as the chief and commander and as the president of the United States. So And these are all common sense practices because we got to balance things out. We can't have a $36 trillion debt, still spending trillions, still printing, devaluing the currency. And they say it's incompetence. We say it's not incompetence. That's intentional. That's in operation. That's Project 2020. And so, who does it hurt? It hurts me. Hurts our families. Hurts you. Hurts the individual American because you're talking plus 30% of your income, on your checks is already missing prior to you receiving it, on top of the devaluation of the currency. So you're being taxed to death at every turn, right? To finance the maintenance of that reality. And that's an issue. So we had to interrupt that. So we sent in a specialist to bankrupt that system. We have to bankrupt that organization. We have to dissolve those policies. That's what the bankruptcy is for, to invalidate it, to interrupt, to dissolve it, to liquidate it, right? And in the process of recoupment, we got to recoup the sovereignty of the American people. That's been usurped. How was this done? It's been done through these unfair trade agreements, other international arrangements. That's how it's been done. And it has the impact into the local communities. And it has an impact on the local political infrastructures as well. And so this thing is operating from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. It's a pipeline. And so they've been instructed to put in, therefore, plant certain agents to operate throughout and within the United States of America. And that's why you see such what they refer to as the Great Decline. The Great Decline. What's going on? How do you? So you got Canada, and then you got the respond. That's what's on the screen right now. So let's take a look at some reports.
This isn't a trade war with Canada or Mexico or China. This is about fentanyl. I mean, we've had mass invasion of our country, and we've been taking mass casualties. We lose almost 300 people a day to overdose deaths in this country. That's a tragedy. President Trump wants it to end, and that's what these tariffs began with. That is about securing our border for both a legal entry, but also because of the drugs that are killing our Americans. Well, certainly it's an incentive for Americans to say, let's get going on producing energy here. But you saw the lower tariff on Canadian energy. I mean, this reflects President Trump thoughtfully considering the impacts on American, but still putting pressure on those related to the border. I mean, this isn't a trade war with Canada or Mexico or China. This is about fentanyl. I mean, we've had mass invasion of our country, and we've been taking mass casualties. We lose almost 300 people a day to overdose deaths in this country. That's a tragedy. President Trump wants it to end, and that's what these tariffs began with. That is about securing our border for both a legal entry, but also because of the drugs that are killing our Americans.
So that's a principle. So they saying, well, hey, wait a minute. This system, this pipeline that's been generating trillions of dollars to finance people and organized groups at the fatal and financial expense of the American people. And it's crippling the country. It's attacking a particular age group in their most developmental years, their most productive years. How do we address this? The country's dying. It's not just losing its wealth, it's losing its spirit, it's losing its soul. The nation is dying. Our youth are dying. If the youth is dying, the nation is dying. So that's something that's a common sense mentality when you're in the capacity of fathership. When you think about fathership, when you think about how you feel about your sons and daughters and your wives and your businesses, right? You're thinking about preservation of life, to protect, to defend, to expand, to enrich, right? To secure. And that's from the principle of love. You understand? We he took an economic, political, presidential action, lawful action, constitutionally delegated action, right? In response to what you just heard them say, the fentanyl, which and so they laid it down on a principle. We got a right to defend uh, the people of the United States. That's our job. Our job is to defend, to protect the people of the United States. That's my job as chief and commander and as president. And so here's our response to that. And here's the reasoning for this presidential action. And it says, so this is not solely about, uh, what he said, he was talking about the economic war. It's not that. No, it's about that the border issue. They've been this been this has been viewed as a national security issue, as a war, uh, perceived as a war crime against the American people. I mean, think about it. They took another presidential action by uh, classifying cartels as terrorists, so terrorist groups, so terrorist cells, etc., in collusion with other hostile nations to destabilize. This is what the reports. So they laying it out and justifying or laying out their reasoning behind the actions that's being taken from the White House. And then we the people must examine the actions, the reasoning, the numbers, right? We got to look at what's going on too. We got to sit here like, okay, because at the end of the day, all of these people are just advisors to we the people, right? We put them in a position to advise us, to give us the information, real data, truth matters, facts matter, science matters, especially in the reality of decision making, leadership, of nations, of businesses, of families. And so we have to examine and say, okay, why did President Trump do this? Why did they issue this order? And then what does the order actually say? Not the highlights of what people said it said, but did we read it? Did we consume it? Did we examine it? Did we analyze it? Did we look at the data that supported this data, that supported the decision making from the advisory, from the state of advisors that President Trump has around him on these particular issues? Because we've seen the Panama authorities come in. They say, hey, look, we're going to do business with the U.S. We're going to abide by what President Trump has going on. They asked him about the EU. Are you going to put tariffs on the EU? He's saying, yeah. And he's also saying, look, we have been subsidizing these countries forever. Why? He's saying we're in a $36 trillion deficit. The American people and their children's children is going to bear the financial tax burden, right? They're going to bear the tax burden and paying this debt off. And so that's going to be effectively putting them in a debt enslavement, where they're going to be subject to debt. And then you already got the issue of AI technology and all that stuff, which is going to replace hundreds of thousands of jobs. You're going to force evolution of the workforce to go into, and so those who can't advance themselves and develop those necessary skills in the required areas, it's data supporting that it's going to be an issue. And so we have issues, so we can't afford to be financing unnecessary issues that's causing us, that's supporting like all issues. And so in looking at the 36, right, the 36T, the big T, and you're saying that the money that the revenues that's being generated is going directly to trillions of dollars in interest payments. And so you listen to all these people that break these number downs and hit you with these different financial realities, and in their attempt to try to quantify or communicate to the American people, this is why, this is that. And so I support, the necessary actions that the president is taking right now, saying, hey, look, we got to take a look at this list of people: China, Colombia, Panama, the EU, the Middle East, every BRICS nations. He sent a message to the BRIC nations as well, saying, look, hey, if you guys continue to move forward with an agenda with the intent to replace the US dollar as a world reserve currency, we're going to place tariffs on all of you at these numbers. So that's equivalent to me or you sending out a notice to enact or initiate or activate or enforce the law. Say, hey, notice, I finna cut the lights off. You owe me some money. And this is exactly the reality, because I have seen reports that says nations have taken advantage by using statuses as like a development nation, a developing nation, which has really been giving them um, advantages in trade agreements, access to resources, etc. Um, as President Trump would say, unfairly to, or in leaves us in a position, uh, in a bad position in the area of negotiations. And so, who takes the hit? The American people directly. That's who takes the hit. So, we haven't had a voice uh, at the presidential capacity in the White House in eons. Really, we have not had a president that says, "Look, I got to put the interests of the American people first. This is essential." Because you say it, but then you take the actions that correlates with your words. We got to hold you to your word. And so these are important because this is to bringing peace, not only here at home, but in the entire world. We got to stop this attack on Americans. You look at the numbers. How many of our youth has died from fentanyl? Where is fentanyl produced at? How is it produced? How was it trafficked into the Americas, particularly the United States of North America? How was that done? Once we identify how it's done, then we must take measures to stop that pipeline from entering into our borders. We got to secure the borders. We got to secure the borders politically, out in the land. We got to secure the borders in several different phases of securing the border. And so we examine it. So we and then simultaneously we're addressing human trafficking, we're addressing pedophilia, we're addressing all hundreds of crimes that is being committed and being practiced by bad actors, different nationals and our own people. We have enemies from within as well. So we have a lot of bad actors, and they're not acting alone. They're acting in unison. They're acting in cohorts. They're acting in collusion. They're willing participants in what Trump called the decline of the USA. And so when we was talking about saving America, that's you kind of see that being unfolded. And I know the world's not a perfect place. We all have some some concerns about uh, maybe everything when it comes to the presidential actions, because there's been a heightened awareness, a heightened sense of awareness when it comes to the political activities in the United States and the impact and effect not only nationally but internationally. And so there's a heightened awareness of that. There's people like, well, wait a minute, why is he doing this? And why is he meeting with this person? What's going on, right? And rightfully so, because that is the authority of the people, the American people, that you have a right to know. It doesn't matter if you're the president. It doesn't matter if you're a judge. It doesn't matter what institute. If you're in operations on the North American land, you were subject to the American constitutional law. It's a supremacy clause, and due process and equal protection of law is supreme law of the land. So you have a right to know, and that right can't be taken away without due process of law. And so, therefore, the American people can actually exercise that right. They even codified it as a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. That's, I watch Judicial Watch. These guys are masters at the utilization of the FOIA. They sue the walls off you, um, using the FOIA, okay, uh, process to extract the necessary information that they require, they are seeking. So that's an important consciousness. And so I seen President Trump send a message out to South Africa, um, about some treatments and some things that they had some concern with, and sent a message to them. Um, so, his third week in office, he has been an active body, an agent for the American people benefits. We're the great American beneficiaries. So, holding absolute title over the estate in question. And so you need real leadership. And it's not about skin complexion. It's not about hair, sex, gender, etc. It's about the spirit of a man, the spirit of the person, the spirit of the nation. It's about the spirit of the law, the spirit of love, truth, peace, freedom. It's about that consciousness. Man, it's a what do you say? It's a light over the USA. I agree to that. It's a light over the USA, and it's water flowing in California. That's kind of crazy to say because it's surrounded by a great body of water. It's always have been flowing. And so we're talking about returning to the golden age, right? That water is representative of life, currency, wealth, the flow, the abundance flow of wealth and currency. That's what that means. And that's what these presidential actions represent. These presidential actions represent the return of your wealth, the return of your resources, the absolute control, the allodial title. And this is the mandate. This is the mandate, the divine mandate. That's why they mention God before they take particular actions or all actions, because in God we trust. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created free and endowed with certain rights by their creator. And it's doubled down in the Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment exposes these same truths. Can't be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. The American people of this constitutional republic, United States of North America, have been deprived under the color of law. And you're like, wait, what are you talking about? The color of law. So the color of law is actually defined at the codes of the United States or the laws of the United States. They set up an artificial United States and called it a democracy to overthrow the constitutional republic. Why does Trump has to come in and take particular presidential actions when it comes to the national security, economy, the safety and well-being, the elections? What is this? Why does Trump has to come in? Why was this not in order prior administrations? And when did it go south? When did it go left? How did it get out of alignment? Who messed with the orbit? And so Americans was like on a mission to Mars at Elon Musk. The Americans was like on a mission to Mars, and they put you to sleep in those cryo chambers, and it's like it felt like an hour, but you've been asleep for 90 days, maybe a year to get to from Earth to Mars. And so that was Americans. That was the American people. They're sitting here promoting to you all propaganda. They say America is the number one nation in this and the number one that. No, we've been spending the most taxpayers' dollars, fiat, well, we say revenues, tax generated revenues, U.S. taxpayer generated revenues, right, to get the worst results. We're leading in the worst results. And so these things are known amongst the rest of the world, but amongst the 370 million people, the general public, 98% didn't know. They was under the same hypnosis operation at North America. PSYOPs. And now, when the bubble burst, boop, and the other celestial bodies, other nations started making different moves, making different decisions. And then what sounded the alarm? 2020 election sounded the alarm. Really, no, no. The first Trump administration sounded the alarm when he said, what do you have to lose? You own nothing. And it wasn't a direct saying to a particular group of people. He's saying that to Americans. You own nothing. They took your water. They took your power and authority. They usurped it, converted it over into the administrative state, and it what you call the bureaucrats. A full invasion of the constitutional republic. And now all you heard was U.S. democracy. Wait a minute, the United States is a republic, and it has Article 4, Section 4, Republican form of government shall be guaranteed. America is a constitutional republic. Every state within this union is subjected to the will of the republic. The state of Michigan is the Republic of Michigan. It is a constitutional republic. This is indivisible. It cannot remove itself from that form of governance. Who did this? The question becomes, who authorized the transfer of the republic into what is referred to as U.S. democracy? Okay, what is that? And then we are aligning ourselves in groups under those governing principles. Well, America's a republic. The people are in charge. The civilian rule. That is the rule of law. And that's why we have elections. You can run for president. You and your people can kind of hey, listen, I ran for office 3 times. So we're examining the president's presidential behavior and his conduct to learn his thinking. But then when you go back to his the rallies, 3 years of rally, 4 years of rallying, you have multiple impeachment attempts, assassination attempts. You had prosecutorial abuse attempts, lawfare attempts. What did we learn? Because there was a why, there was a cause and effect, there was a why. After we see the how, you had to be able to learn the why. Why did they do that? Why they raid the president? Why they raid the president? They raided President Trump, Mar-a-Lago for document. He was a president. He could die. He can declassify. Like, then he presented the law, which we already knew and common sense for him. So how did the president become subject to think? It doesn't even make sense. And that's the issue. If a situation is pushed to be a complex one, then it's not law at all. This is a scam. And it's designed to confuse you, to create complexities as a distraction, propaganda tool. This is PSYOP. So Americans had to get to a level of military consciousness, right? Meaning, When I say military consciousness, I mean like having your mind restructured by redeveloping, retraining it to see things that you normally wouldn't see. You can see patterns develop before it actually become a full habit of a nation. You can learn how to cure the nation. So Donald Trump is applying, in my opinion, based on the actions and his thought process. Will the ride get bumpy? It was already bumpy. The ride was already. We're trying to find out, how do we get on such bumpy roads? How long we been on this road, this path to this path of destruction, economically, politically. Uh, why would we continue things like what is being reported here? Let's bring this up. Okay, so you know, let me get the other one. There's another one. Oh, here it is. We're gonna get to the. We're gonna get to that in just a second. But look at these bombshell reports. So you got to appreciate this administration, because these things didn't just happen. They didn't just pop up. You can't say the intelligence community did not know. Okay, so we got to look at that. You got to understand. We talk about, what is President Trump's thought process? Why did he freeze this and freeze that? Why did he freeze all these trillions why did he take an executive action towards freezing funds, towards establishing the Department of Government Efficiency, right? Doge. Why did he put Elon Musk in place? Why did Elon Musk buy Twitter? What was the principles that supported his action? Right? Freedom of speech. Where's that? Constitution, First Amendment. Who that's guaranteed to? That's a birthright from God, freedom of speech. In God we trust. And no government can interfere, participate in that reality against the American people. So let's go. Let's pull the screen out. I thought the screen was running. Let me go. Uh, Let me fix this stuff back. And so this is it should be pulling up. I got to be my own producer here, so work with me. Let me see what we got here. Not okay. Boom. So we got it on the screen now. Zelensky, Ukraine received $76 billion out of 177 billion approved by America. So the United States Congress is being reported approved. Some people say 200 billion. He's saying 177. They saying they actually realized 77 billion, 76 billion of the 177. So it's 101, $100 billion that's missing. So this is not new information, though. This is not like we're gonna pretend like the intelligence community was not aware. Like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play the role like it's incompetent versus it's a money laundering operation. Because incompetence means that we can't get justice. Intent, the intent to commission, operate, participate in a money laundering operation, a U.S. taxpayer dollars, that activates the interest of the Department of Justice investigation immediately. Plus, in the military as well, plus in the executive office and the congressional branch as well. Well, we had a total, absolute total breakdown. The fact that this even being reported right now, there's a total, absolute breakdown. What do you mean the Ukrainians received only 76 billion out of the 170? So where is the money? So now we understand the reasoning of President Trump taking particular presidential actions in the interest, in the beneficial interest of we the people, because we are the ones that are being taxed to death illegally, and there's been a misappropriation of funds. There's been an embezzlement, and there has been a lot of bad actors, both domestic and foreign actors involved within the governmental framework. And so this stuff has to be rooted out. And what we're doing is experiencing the capacity of being active witnesses to the revealings, right? To the evidence, the findings. So look at it as a one big international court case. And we the people are the judge, jury, and the executioner. So this is shakeup of the world. It's shaking up the nations of the earth. What is? Truth is. Truth is shaking up the nations of the earth. Because if you've been asleep, you woke. You're no longer in a dead state. You have a voice. The world is communicating at a very high level right now. And we said, well, the deportation program, the deportation operation. We've seen the nations respond. Hey, what's going on? But if you look at all of President's time, Trump, for 4 years, he kept saying these nations have intentionally placed in the United States these bad actors, criminals, cartels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He went down the list. And what was he signaling to the American people? There's an active operation to destabilize the U.S. communities. And that's collectively the nation at our expense. And then you got byproduct activities, human trafficking, pedophilia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got byproduct activities because of this national security issue at the border. And then you have an inaction from Congress, you have an inaction from the executive branch, you have an inaction from the judicial branch. So we have a constitutional crisis at this point. He was sounding an alarm. Most Americans had a hard time or difficulties deciphering, decoding, because they have no idea about their American citizenship and the protections that God given that is protected under the law. So there was no need for all these colorable legislations, which only gave authority and power and finance to the administrative state. They did, i.e. the shadow government, i.e. the deep, what most is referring to as the deep state. And so you see everything now is coming out saying, hey, you took this much money and you took this much money from pharmaceutical companies. That's why you ain't here fighting me. We sit here with science-backed data, published data, peer-reviewed data, saying that this is killing Americans and costing us $4 trillion at the same time, when we could have took a common sense approach, a natural approach, a spiritual approach, you know what I'm saying, to solving that reality. We didn't have to spend $4 trillion and still the sickest nation in the world. And that means that we're one of the weakest nations in the world. Who we're going to fight, and we got a greater fight with cancer. We have to fight against diabetes. How we going to fight some hostile nation when we are under attack eternally within our bodies because we decide to go to some restaurant, decide to buy from some grocery store. Well, where's the CDC, FDA, USDA? Where's these federal branches of government that's designed, established to protect the American people? Well, they got bought out. They got bought out. That's interesting. So, uh, we again, let's go back to Zelensky. Okay. So Zelensky, hold on, let me make sure my pot of cinnamon is not. So going back, so Zelensky, when we look at President Trump's the impact and effect, the benefits starts with the investigation first because you got to get the facts out there because a lot of people have opinions that's deeply rooted in their partisan ideologies and their partisan emotions, far from the reality of facts. And we have become a nation that's accustomed to practicing fiction and supporting fiction's reality. But here's the facts. So President Vladimir Zelensky has clarified that the approximately 177 billion in aid approved by the U.S. For Ukraine has received about 76 billion. Zelensky in an interview with Associated Press, quote, when I hear both in the past and even now from the U.S. that America has provided Ukraine with hundreds of billions of dollars, 177 to be precise, based on what Congress approved, as the president of a nation at war, I can tell you we received more than 75 billion. So when people talk about 177 billion or even 200 billion, we've never received that. We're talking about tangible things because this aid didn't come as cash, but rather as weapons, which amounted to about 70 billion. Okay. But when it said that Ukraine received $200 billion to support the army during the war, that's not true. I don't know where the money went. Perhaps it's true on paper with hundreds of different programs. I won't argue. And we're immensely grateful for everything. But in reality, we received about 76 billion. It's significant aid, but it's not 200 billion. So, you know, and what to say, details regarding the suspension of funding for humanitarian programs. Zelensky highlighted specific cases such as a U.S. $200 million energy-related program and others in healthcare and border security. Those they say those 300, $400 million are the programs that the state receive. We will manage. Hold on, wait. No, it said those 300, $400 million are the programs that state receive. We will manage this. I will secure support either from European partners or through international resources.
freedom and
More
have our
details.
work family, our employees to
Zelensky
also have freedom as
emphasized to the
well.
U.S.
It's kind of
the
reinvigorated
importance
our goal and our
of
mission, and
maintaining a
it's going to help
veteran
us
and
to go
healthcare
into
programs
2025 really
during
strong.
war times. Okay. My bad for the slowdown. I'm sitting here working through.
We're a women-owned firm. It's myself and my business partner, Amber Oliver. We started with SMB about 3 months ago, and so far it's been phenomenal. The best 2 months we've ever had. Our firm's been around for 4 years, and we've had the most successful months we've had so far. I think the easiest thing is we're just implementing the
Okay,
process.
so
I know
quote,
we're working with our
there are
coach
also
directly a
many
good
other
bit, and
humanitarian
we're just
programs
implementing
I'm
the
uniformed
things
about,
that he's
except
telling
for
us to
knowing
do
of
and
their
trying
existence.
to
Perhaps the
build
U.S.
on what the process
President's
look like. So for the next
administration will
5 years, we're
audit
hoping
these
to go
programs
10x.
and
Next
find
year, we have a
additional
2x
billions.
goal, and I think we're
But
well
I
on our way
don't
to doing
know
that. It's
where
just been
those
a goal of
funds
ours for
went.
years just to continue to
When
grow.
this
And
war
we want to
started,
grow and
many
become one of the
Ukrainian
most prominent
organizations
law
left the
firms in
country,
Georgia doing business in
likely
construction law.
following
We
signals
have young
from the
families, and
U.S.
so we do
Embassy.
want to
Probably these
not just do the
various
typical
organizations
build
were funded
2,100
by
hours
different
a year.
foundations.
We want to have the freedom and have our
Wow,
work family, our employees, to also have that freedom as
wow,
well.
wow, wow.
It's kind of reinvigorated our goal and our mission. We're a women-owned firm. It's myself and my business partner, Amber Oliver. We started with SMB about 3 months ago, and so far it's been phenomenal. The best 2 months we've ever had. Our firm's been around for 4 years, and we've had the most successful months we've had so far. I think the easiest thing is we're just implementing the processes. I know we're working with our coach directly a good bit, and we're just implementing the things that he's telling us to do, and trying to build on what the processes look like. So for the next 5 years, we're hoping to go 10x. Next year, we have a 2x goal, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. It's just been a goal of ours for years just to continue to grow, and we want to grow and become one of the most preeminent law firms in Georgia doing business in construction law. We have young families, and so we do want to not just do the typical build 2,100 hours a year. We want to have the freedom and have our work family, our employees, to also have that freedom as well. It's kind of reinvigorated our goal and our mission, and it's going to help us to go into 2025 really strong. We're a women-owned firm. It's myself and my business partner, Amber Oliver. We started with SMB about 3 months ago, and so far it's been phenomenal. The best 2 months we've ever had. Our firm's been around for 4 years, and we've had the most successful months we've had so far. I think the easiest thing is we're just implementing the processes. I know we're working with our coach directly a good bit, and we're just implementing the things that he's telling us to do and trying to build on what the processes look like. So for the next 5 years, we're hoping to go 10x. Next year, we have a 2x
Oh wow, I think my mic was froze.